Thokozani, Thokozani, family, Thokozani. Please tap the screen as you come on. Welcome once again to another conversation on calendars, the calendar and timekeeping. Please tap the screen as you join. Appreciate you all for being here. Toria, I see you. Masiziba, I see you. My T. Please tap the screen, guys. I hope you are able to hear me. Keep tapping the screen. You absolutely lose nothing. You can keep tapping and liking. That way, we get as many people here as possible. Kulu will join us shortly. But welcome. I'm super happy to see you. I am fine, Masiziba, Siapila. Thank you so much. I have a big grin on my face because I love doing these things. I love coming here and sharing with you guys. Thank you so much for your response. I just wanted to update you. We are literally 400 people away from hitting 10K on Gogonganyezi Speaks. This has been some rapid growth. So if you have not subscribed, please go on YouTube, subscribe, comment, share, like on Gogonganyezi Speaks, because when we get to 10K, we start story time. Ha! Now, the other thing too, I wanted to share with you guys. Remember, I did a shout out to say, let me know where you're all from, because I have been keeping track of our royals and where we are in the world. So while we wait for Mkhulu, I'm just going to read out to you so you see how far and wide, but ever so close we really are. So we have Bahamas, we have Trinidad and Tobago, we have Mexico, we have the USA, we have Jamaica, we have Guyana, South America, we have UK, we have Norway, we have Finland, we have Kenya, we have Rwanda, we have Uganda, we have Malawi, we have Botswana, we have Zimbabwe, we have Colombia in South America, we have Canada, we have Liberia, we have Haiti, we have Peru. That's like, isn't that phenomenal? Like that for me is just, it's like we really are all over the place. We are all over the world. And it gives me such joy to know that we have this one unifier that brings us all together. And while we wait for Mkhulu, I wanted to share something with you guys. I did a bit of research for those who continue to maybe question in the back of their minds, what is the importance of a calendar, right? The truth is, whoever controls your time controls you. I want to share with you how many, well, I can't share with you all of the calendars, but I want to share with you how many different cultural groups across the world have their own calendar. And therefore, they use this calendar to follow their own traditions, to do their own thing. Here we go. We have the Armenian calendar. We have the Assyrian calendar. We have the Baha'i calendar, the Balinese calendar, Bengali, Berber, Buddhist, Burmese, Byzantine, Chinese, Mayan calendar, and more. I was like, okay, you know what? There are hundreds of calendars here and I'm not going to get through them. So this is why when you hear us talk of an African calendar and its importance, it's because really culturally and spiritually, if you don't control your time, meaning you are not in charge of when you do your venerations, if you are not in charge of how you venerate, if you're not in charge of how you gather together as a community, whoever's calendar you're using, whoever's in charge of that calendar that you're using controls you, controls your time, controls your ability to commune with the cosmos, controls your ability to create, to manifest. Because we know that there are certain times in our calendar year during which we do certain rituals, right? In our African calendar. So, hello, we have a calendar. We've always had a calendar. It's just now available to all Bakwantu across the world. So if we're doing certain things and we're not aligned with our own ancient calendar, Well, as many people say, I don't know why my manifestations aren't working. Well, when are you doing your manifestations, right? I don't know why my project didn't take off the ground. Well, when did you launch your project, right? All these things are important. So I wanted to share this information with you guys just to allay the fears, or to if anyone had any question in mind, why is this calendar thing so important? The calendar thing is critical. Like I said, I've read to you over 30 countries, not even countries, but ethnic groups or ethnic communities that have their own calendar. So wherever these people are, wherever you have, if Bengali people are in Zimbabwe and you have Bengali people in China and you have Bengali people, I don't know, wherever, in Russia, they follow their own calendar and align with the calendar of home in terms of their rituals, their celebrations, their new year, whatever it is. And they're successful people. So what about us, right? What about us? So hopefully that's great. I'm still hanging on. Mkhulu will show up just now. I do not want to delve into the topic, but I will put this out there. The paperback version is now available globally. If you go into the link in my bio, you will see a link tree. Now, a lot of people are getting confused. Press the link tree. Within the link tree, there is a place where it says links. Go to that place. You will see all the links for the calendar where you can get it. The United States, Barnes & Nobles is fine. Lulu is also fine. I have found that Barnes & Nobles delivers much quicker than Lulu, so it's up to you which way you want to go there. However, we had a Lulu e-calendar. Now, for those in the States who are like, but I wanted an e-calendar, you don't go on the Barnes & Nobles link, go on the Lulu e-calendar. For those in the diaspora who could only access the e-calendar on Lulu, you now are able to access the paperback also on Lulu. It will say Lulu paperback. And then you just go there and you click and you get taken care of, right? People have been sending in pictures. Please continue to send your picture. Like, please send your pictures. We love them. We love them. My number is 734 +1 734 274 0664. Please note that number, because when time comes, the WhatsApp group will be ready soon. You will know that number. So mark it down. And then once I announce that we're ready to go, you guys can literally just use that number and you can come through and we will get in, because we're going to be partnering, like I said last time, in isiZulu, because like Mkhulu explained last time, English has no resonance. And so the calendar book you're getting explains the different energies and principles. And then we will come together as a community in our group at the particular times which we pasha, which are 6 a.m. to 6 a.m., 12 noon, 6 p.m. and midnight. Now, for us in the Northern Hemisphere, we will have to time ours with what those at home are doing. So the times that are given here, we will have to match them with African time. And it's really easy. I'll tell you why. The only one that'll be difficult for a lot of us is 6 a.m. because 6 a.m. in South Africa is 3 a.m. for us. That might be a little, I don't know. But here we go. 12 noon in South Africa is 6 a.m. here. So we can gather at our 6 a.m. They'll be doing 12 noon and we can join in, right? Create that massive resonance that we're looking for. 6 p.m. South Africa time is 12 p.m. here. So we can gather. And the beauty of it is, because you're using your phone, the Patla session, guys, takes all of 5 minutes. 5 to 7 minutes. So you can at 12 just step outside your office. You can go outside, you face north, and we do the things. And we're aligning with people at home. Then 12 midnight South Africa time is 6 p.m. for us in the Northern Hemisphere. So we can still catch those. So is this the one where, if getting up at 3 is a bit dicey? Well, some of us are kept up anyway. But if it is a bit too much, that's the only one that you will miss, right? Maybe you have to get up for work and stuff like that. So, yeah. And I think I see Mkhulu here. So we're going to bring Mkhulu on. So we've taken care of the housekeeping, right? I'll bring Mkhulu on and we will go into this absolutely beautiful and fascinating topic of timekeeping, the history of calendars, and the meridians. Okay. Let's see. Thokoza Mkhulu.
Thokoza Ndlovukazi.
Thokoza Mkhulu ninjani?
Okay. Right. Siyaphila njani Ndlovukazi?
There you are. So Mkhulu, I'm going to do the usual where I minimize myself and maximize you because you have lots to share with us today. Thank you for joining us. Where do we do this? Expand. There we go. Thokoza Kev, Thokoza Mntomdala. Thank you for joining us. We are super excited to have you with us once again. And Mkhulu, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you perfectly. So Mkhulu, today we thought we would pick your brain about a little bit of the history of timekeeping in terms of calendars. Just to orient you a little bit to make it a little easier. I was looking and thinking in terms of things like the Libombo bone, and then moving on and upwards and moving forward in time, also looking at the Ishango bone and so on. So Mkhulu, maybe we start there with just, the history of timekeeping and starting, say, with the Libombo bone.
Yes, certainly. Greetings, Hotep, to everyone. Yes, Ndlovukazi. That's a very interesting thing because Ndlovukazi, it's queens and princesses that gave us the calendar. The first calendar in the world. It's a calendar. It's a lunar calendar. It is found, here in South Africa at a place called Libombo. Libombo, somewhere around Swaziland. And that calendar is called the Libombo bone. It was created by African women so that they are able to actually align with the movement of the cosmos, especially the moon, because the moon affects them, all the time, every season, every month. So they gave us the calendar. And we see the very same group of people leaving the south, going to the north, but via the Central Africa, which is the DRC. And this is where we find the second lunar calendar, written on a bone, a baboon fibula. The same thing, even the Libombo one, it was the same thing. They used the baboon bone. So the one in Central Africa, Congo, is called the Shango bone. These two are the oldest mathematical instruments, as well as what is called now today the lunar calendar, which was tracking the movement of the moon around our planet Earth. Then, they moved on, remember that those that were here in the South, we don't only get the lunar calendar, but also the solar calendar, because this is what is represented at Inzalo Elam. White people corrupted it and called it Adam's calendar. You then ask, where was Adam? Even the concept of Adam, when that calendar was created over 200,000 years ago. So these are the two calendars that were created by African people, which then says all calendars in the world are based on these two. So when our people moved from tracking the lunar cycle, they moved to the solar, while the lunar tracing the moon cycle. They said it's very erratic. You can't predict with certainty that the moon will be here next year. So for the secular calendar, they then adopted the solar calendar, which then gave them 360 days based on what is called the Decan stars. The Decan stars, it's a group of 10 stars that changes after 10 days, and they sit along the ecliptic. The ecliptic is where it's the pathway of the sun, or our pathway when we move around the sun. So these Decan stars are 36 in number, which then gives us 360. As we know, that's the circumference, of any circle, which is 360, degrees. They then, added 5 days to give honor to the first spiritual ancestors, meaning that, all those elements which, gave material for any creation to happen on earth. White people call them 5 solids, but we gave them names based on their elements and their relevance. And the first element there was Asa, which is hydrogen. Hydrogen together with oxygen. These are two elements that which represents the sun and the moon. Then these are the elements that were given 5 days, for us to honor, because we wouldn't be, plants wouldn't be, trees wouldn't be, everything wouldn't be without these, 5 elements here on earth. And they are regarded as a slightly grosser element, because the 4 elements above that, if you understand the African creation story, they are much lighter in terms of their vibrational frequency and and the heaviness. They are lighter than these 5 solids. So therefore, they were given these special 5 days, which then completes the solar calendar that gave them 365 days. So then somebody else would then ask, what happened, to the 13 month, of the lunar cycle. I always say that the lunar or the 13th month, it only has 5 days, right? In isiZulu here in South Africa, we call it, or Babu Kreno called it Indida, because it only has 5 days. So somehow, it was an incorporation of the lunar and the solar, because the solar is 360 days. That should complete, our revolution around the sun. But then the addition of these 5 days in honor of the 5 solids, as Westerners call them, I think it then adds the 13th month. That is still, to be further investigated and debated, because I thought that, it was a bringing together both the solar and the lunar together. Remember that the moon doesn't produce its own, light, but it reflects the light of the sun. So this separation that seemed to happen, amongst our people that, oh no, I follow the lunar or the other one, the solar. No, you need to follow both.
Of course.
Because they represent elements that are responsible for creation. Both the lunar and the solar. And remember that the lunar was very important in terms of our rituals.
Of course.
In our royal crawls. All rituals, in the royal crawl are guided by the movement of the moon. So we have in abundant, a lot of people, especially in rural South Africa, is still alive. They live both, the lunar and solar. So there shouldn't be any separation that you make a choice to follow the moon and leave the sun, or the other way around. It shouldn't be like that, Jokosi.
Kenta, thank you so much. That was a mouthful. And I just want to recap a little bit so that people understand also the movement of, if you like, people and the civilization. So the Libombo bone, which is in the Libombo Mountains in Swaziland, is 80. They dated through carbon dating to be 80,000 years old, right? That's the oldest one in terms of the lunar calendar. Then that's further south. If you look at a map, you will see that Swaziland is further south, and then moving upwards further north to Central Africa, to the DRC, we find the Ishango bone, which they date to be 22,000 years. So it speaks also to the movement, if you like, the movement of knowledge, or the movement of civilization, and where it all started in terms of this lunar calendar particularly. The other interesting thing I found out is the San people of Namibia are still using this lunar calendar today. They still have it on the fibula of the baboon, and they are still using it. And it's also used as a system of counting, which is why white people have basically reduced it to a mathematical instrument rather than the calendar that it is. And speaking of the use of this calendar, the Shango bone actually has 29 notches in it, which again, if for Indlovukazi, know that the monthly cycle of Indlovukazi is usually a 28-29 day cycle. And so that, I guess it speaks to the ingenuity of Indlovukazi, or maybe necessity is the mother of invention. They really needed to invent something that could assist them in tracking these days. And also in speaking of the fifth month and honoring Asa and Aset, right? This comes to that cosmic mapping of as above, so below, where really how do you choose a lunar calendar over a solar calendar, when in actual fact, these are two cosmic bodies that have forever worked together in order to create everything on Earth. I think when we meditate, or we introspect a little bit about that unity of Asa, Auset, right, oxygen and hydrogen, it should kind of sober us up in terms of complementarity as opposed to competition, because we are the ones who are introducing a sort of competition between these two calendars, which then maps out in the competition between the divine masculine and the divine feminine right here as we live and progress. And it actually is never been that way cosmically. And so we have a responsibility to always be mindful of the things that put us in competition versus the things that bring us into harmony.
Togoza and Ndlovukazi. It's like that. Yeah. We should be relentless in terms of striving for harmony, because this is when Heka happens, which is a natural magic. So there's no reason to choose one against the other. You have to, like the most powerful times for for us to communicate and where we see actions and witness whatever we're communicating to ancestors, the sun and the moon, and all the warriors, of the continent. We normally use the lunar cycle.
Of course.
And that communication and invocation is led by women. Because, we've gained, somehow gained that wisdom here in GK, and acknowledge and, rise to the occasion that female, in terms of, spirituality, they are more higher than men. Why? Because remember that the sun produces these vibrational frequencies or electrical, frequencies. Then they are hosted by the moon. So the moon is the controller. And most Indlovukazi generally, our queens are more connected to the moon than men. So therefore, we've wisen up to that thing that whatever we want to communicate to the cosmos, we have to be led, by our queens. And, so far it's working for us. We requested that, the ancestors must assist in terms of the destruction of republics on the continent. And there we are. We are witnessing that destruction happening. It's moving at its own pace, but, it's definitely happening. Very soon, there won't be republics on the continent, as long as we keep communicating, our disgust for this Western system. Very, very soon, Africa will be free of republics, and the tried and tested governing system will be restored, through this communication with the spirit, because we started this before any other coup, was happening, but we were communicating already with the spirit about, because we had identified, the central problem for African people, for what puts them in this condition currently is these republics on the continent. So, and by realizing the power that, our queens, hold, remember that Africa and men in particular lost power the day we disrespected our women. Now, we've wised up, to that, to make sure that everybody takes their position. There is a role for men, but in terms of, we are more stronger on the physical, things that have manifested already. But in terms of, sending communication, it goes much quicker and easier if it's communicated through, our queens.
Thank you so much for that, Ketha. I want us to kind of shift a little bit, but it's also all in the sphere of timekeeping. And let us look at the meridians, because we have the Greenwich meridian, upon which everything in terms of time, in terms of the daily clock, in terms of even the calendar is based. And then we have the true meridian. I want us to talk a little bit about this misalignment as well. Togos
and Ndlovukazi. Okay, before we get to the meridians, I just want to emphasize and just put the foundation to this topic. The wristwatch that we wear and the wall clock, it's all based on the calendar, right? Because it's a miniature, of a calendar. It's calculating the days, or the hours of the day. So calendar and the watch, it's one civilization, one technology. You know, so let's understand that when we are fixing the calendar, we are also fixing the clock. Because even the clock, you know, it has been, you know, misaligned purposely so that our protons, neutrons, electrons are confused in our system. In that way, it's easy, you know, for the colonizers to deal with us. So, guys, when we talk about the true meridian, remember that African people, they created the calendar, right? And they created the system of calculating, you know, time. So what they did, there is what is called the golden meridian, right? What's the other name going to the Nile meridian? You know, they call it our ancestors. This is the line, you know, which is above. So, you know, it's part of what is called the electromagnetic field of Earth or the torus field of Earth. So there is a point whereby that line divides Earth, you know, meaning on that, you know, the golden meridian, it's a 0 point. This is where the male and the female energies of Earth meet. So it's a very, very powerful line. And it's from Durban, like I explained last week, at a place called Bluff. You know, that's the root chakra. It starts from there. Then it goes up. Then when it reaches the pyramid of Giza, you know, because our ancestors said it's at the center of Earth. This is where time was first calculated from, which is the true meridian, you know. Then when colonizers came, because they are always against nature, you know, they would bend what is natural so that it suits their agenda. They then moved from the true meridian to the Greenwich meridian. That is why you wake up, you've lost 6 hours, which doesn't make sense, because time is calculated, you know, from the rising of the sun in the morning, right? When you calculate time like that, meaning 7 o'clock in the morning is actually, you know, 1 o'clock. You know, because when you calculate like that and you get to the evening, sunset, you get 12 hours of the day. Meaning what, you know, what Westerners call noon, 12 noon, you know, during the day. That is the 6th hour of the day, right? Then from there, you now calculate the other 6 hour until sunset, which gives you 12 hours of the day. Then from there, from that, you know, 12, they call 6. You calculate from then until the next morning, it gives you 12 hours. So you combine the 12 hours of the day and the 12 hours of night, you have 24 hours. You know, that constitutes a day. So that has created a lot of confusion. You know, that is why a lot of people all over the world, it's not only Africans, but also Europeans, you know, as well, have been misaligned by their own people, you know, for the love of power and control, social control. You know, that is why things are no longer happening naturally to us. You know, which is why all the nations that you mentioned in your opening, of guys, all these people, nations and countries that have their own calendar, they were aware, you know, of the disruptions that was caused by so-called Western civilization, you know, because of the control that they want to command, you know, and control everything. You can't control nature. You know, you can't say it's winter when it's summer. Nature negates that. You know, obviously. It's true, of course. I always ask myself, why do I always wake up? I've lost 6 hours already.
Right.
How is it possible? And I'm witnessing the rising of the sun.
Right.
You know, then the Westerner tells me, no, that's 7 o'clock. What happened to the other hours? So consciously, because now we now have this knowledge from our ancestors and Abu Babu Credo, you know, all the great, you know, Abo Ivan van Sertima, Abo Phil Valentine, the Kaba Kamene, we learn so much from, you know, those African, you know, great, you know, people who are contributing towards this revolution of reclaiming our identity as African people. Everybody confirms this, you know, so that we as African people are preparing for a future that we want. We need to start with alignment.
Of course.
Like people in the States, you know, in the States, there in America and all over the world, Black people, try connecting, try making requests at those given hours, you know, of communication with the cosmos, you know, and just see if there won't be a difference, you know, because it's all about consciousness. It doesn't matter what the colonizer says, but as long as we are conscious, you know, of the true and the truth, you know, of what we are doing, I think, you know, things will start improving. It's all about the realigning. You can never align, you know, to the spirit of the Jewish people, because you are not part of that. You can never align to the spirit of the Chinese. You know, you can't align with any other, you know, spirit or energy, but look for the African energy, you know, align with that spirit of the continent. Because remember that, you know, it all started here on the continent, you know, when the whole world was still one. So African people have seen all this development even before the separation. So the energy of the beginnings is here in the South, you know, and here in South Africa, what we call Southern Kemet, we are most fortunate because we can pinpoint the place where the first bacteria, you know, was produced from what is called the black rock. That bacteria started all living organisms. So it's not just you know, a claim, but it's based on facts. UNESCO did that research. You know, that Southern Kemet, what we call South Africa, is the place of beginning, you know, for everybody and everything. So therefore, all Black people in the world should connect with that energy. It's the most powerful energy. It doesn't matter where you are in Japan, whatever, consciously try and, you know, connect with that energy.
Okay. And you've given us our next topic. I think we will talk about the beginnings in our next topic and look at Intabagai Konjwa and that whole area and what has been found there. By the way, I've been there to this place and a lot happened while I was there that really confirmed that this was the beginning. This was truly, truly the beginning. The rock is there. You can actually see the molten lava in its wave-like shape in the rock. But we'll save that for our next conversation, Ketla. So, Ketla, I literally, when it comes to the whole issue of timekeeping, the calendar, and aligning, I really believe this. In fact, I know this to be the foundation because, like I said, when I was doing my research and looking at all these other cultures with their calendar, when you actually take their calendar out and you look at it, there are spiritual dates and days marked on their calendar. And I just there's so many calendars. I only managed in the time that I did this to look at like 5 different ones. And also remember, I've been to Mexico and I've seen the pyramid that gives them the Mayan calendar and how it marks the equinoxes there in Mexico. So to have been there and seen this, and they talk about the snake because it's a step calendar, and how when the sun hits a certain angle, say at the spring equinox, the snake will appear on one side of this pyramid. Then at the next equinox, on another side of the pyramid where the step is, the snake appears there. I've forgotten what they called the snake, but it's got a name. It was just breathtaking and humbling to experience this and to understand what a powerful tool we have ourselves as African. And it also filled me with a bit of sadness too, to imagine that for all these centuries, we have been misled, misaligned, because we were brainwashed and bamboozled into becoming followers / slaves. And this is the tool that is going to free us and that is going to bring us back to who we really are. So that for me, Ketla, just speaking on calendars, that's why I'm so passionate about this calendar myself, because having been around the world, and I've been to Stonehenge, I've seen that calendar too. And again, and also understanding, so now I've been to Inzalo, the stone calendar, I've been to Stonehenge, I've seen and stepped at the Mayan calendar. Being in these different places and also understanding that all of these places are built at energy vortexes. You feel the energy when you get there. People were getting healed. Like the guy who was our tour guide would say, well, look, this is in Mexico. Just feel where you're pained in your body. If you have knee ache, ankle ache. After we finished the tour, he asked, who still feels the ache that they felt when they got here? And everybody was like, well, I had knee ache. It's gone. Another one was like, yeah, I had a bit of pain in my lower back. It's gone. So our ancestors also understood that creating spaces and places for veneration and ritualing, there had to be this vortex where healing could also take place. So not only were there places where people just gathered, say, to celebrate a new year, but there were also places where people gathered for their healing. And so for me, looking as we are to going to Inzalo, that is always one of the things I like to emphasize to people, is that we fast to prepare our bodies, not just for the spiritual amazing things that will happen, but also to prep your body for the healing that will take place when you get to this place. So again, when we look at calendars, and we cannot separate calendar / culture / spirituality. Again, whoever controls your time controls you and has you enslaved and has you sick and has you misaligned and has you confused, has you perpetually poor, because everything that says you hinges around the calendar, these sacred spaces and the practices that come with it. Thokoza Kef.
Oh no, certainly, Njobukazi. And the most interesting thing, all these sacred spaces, like you said, they are strategically placed at energy vortexes. And, all of them, there's an alignment to the 3 stars of the Orion Belt. The Great Pyramid there in Mexico, the underwater pyramid in Japan. They are all aligned to this. So the Orion Belt, or those stars, they must offer some benefits for earthly, earth dwellers. It's something that we still have got to investigate, because even in our culture, we call it Engulube. Those stars of the Orion Belt, the dog stars. It has always been in the consciousness of African people, even in the midst of colonization. There are people like Ubabu Credo who never allowed himself to be steered away That is why the information and the knowledge, that he was giving us about all these things then, when he was still young, we didn't hear him because consciously we're twisted. We're just full of colonial consciousness, where some of us are still wanting to be like the slave master. We had no time to reconnect back to ourselves. I think, it's all about timing. This is the time. Like here on the continent, all continents, all countries in the continent have to go back to this calendar we're talking about. Because this calendar affects the whole continent. From northern, Kemet, which is Egypt, to southern Kemet here in the south. The energy of this calendar affects everybody. When it is, spring equinox on the 23rd of September, that affects the whole continent. Which is why we explained last week that Ethiopia, remember Ethiopia is just next door, Egypt. So Ethiopia, in terms of choosing the month, is the right month. The only problem where they missed it is the date, because it has no scientific backing. It was a political decision, but the month is the same. So therefore, all Africans are affected by this calendar, which is why there's got to be a demand, by Africans to their president to restore this calendar, because we can't move forward as a continent whilst we are misaligned. Nothing will work for us, because we are going against the natural flow of the energy of the Southern Hemisphere. So a demand is being made here in the South to reintroduce that calendar, because the calendar we used before we were colonized. So we don't understand why there's so much resistance amongst black people who are politicians. They are anti-black. Anything that will assist black people, they seem to be against. Unfortunately, time is against them. Nature is demanding that we need to be realigned back. Anybody that rejects this is a sellout. They hate black people because this is what will bring progress to Africa. Where we are all truly aligned to the natural flow of the continent, the energy of the continent. So anybody that is sabotaging this, is an enemy to African people. So it's very important for Africa, and these so-called president purporting to be our leaders, and yet they are selling us out. These are the people that accepted the package from a colonizer. Remember, the white man system came with all the package, the calendar and everything, religion and everything. Now, these people, after all these years, Ghana had its independence. They're still struggling just to realign the calendar. How do they think? They no longer think as African people, because when you build a nation, the most important thing, you check the time that you are using. Who set that time for you? Because whoever set that time controls your mind. So that is why these leaders still colonize. And they would go to the grave defending the white man system and, being hungry, for that African blood. They come and resist this. We are going to shoot them. That time is over. Africa is demanding justice. And one of the things that we demand is the restoration of our calendar. Restore our calendar so that we are normal again. We flow with the natural flow of energy of the continent. This is so hurtful what they are doing to African people. We've been on this campaign for over 20 years, trying to conscientize these ministers of culture, these presidents that keep changing themselves, but without changing their consciousness. They are married to this, colonial systems of gas. It's so hurtful, for us to be led by these. I don't know. I feel ashamed to call them leaders, because they are not leaders. They are deceivers of black people. Because if you are truthful about African people, you would do the right thing, and the right thing to say is to say no future without realignment with the natural energy of our continent.
Thokoza Khetla. And yes, it is a very emotional subject, I think, for a lot of us, because once you know the truth, you can't unknow it. And once you know the truth, everything becomes so obvious to you that you get frustrated at how is it that so-called educated, mind you, basontiwe, but so-called educated people cannot see the truth. There is a reason why Africa is in a mess and has continued to be in a mess for centuries. Even post-colonization, the colonizer was happy to say, you want power, we'll give you power. Because they knew that the misalignment and mess that they had created, we would go nowhere. And that ultimately we would need them in order to be able to function or to run the systems that they left in place. So the chaos that's on the continent that we see manifest is also a spiritual chaos, because we are not aligned. And as long as we're not aligned, like you said, Mkhulu, we are not normal. How is it normal to go against the natural flow of energy? Like how? How do you expect to succeed if the ocean is the tides are flowing one way and you try to swim in the opposite direction? It doesn't even, how are you going to win that? You can never swim against the tide. And so that flow of energy has a rhythmic and wave-like tide. And you are going the opposite. And that's what this misalignment has done. That's why for many of us, like I said before, everything always feels so hard. Why does it feel like we always have to work so hard to achieve one small thing? For white people, you watch them. I was in school with white people, and I would watch them like, how is it that this stuff is so easy? It didn't occur to me that it's easy because they are flowing and it's their stuff. It's not ours. Therefore, our minds even have a hard time of learning in the way that they said we should learn. Right? We are symbolic thinkers. We see in pictures.
That's true.
But they are giving us these numbers. They give me something that's number 2, and they told that's 2. What is 2? What is 2? But if you show me 2 things like this, I can count.
That's true.
Right? Motsi, piri, 1, 2. So they never took any of that into account, because that was the purpose, is to keep us frustrated, stressed, enslaved to their system, getting educated to work for their system. Everything, and people have to really understand this from a global perspective, everything was created for this machine called Western civilization and the people who live and thrive in it are the ones who created it. They created it for them, not for us. We were never supposed to thrive in the system. That's why it upsets them and it bothers them when suddenly, even say here in America, suddenly, okay, black people are owning homes, they are so-called middle class, they are doing the things. It bothers them. So what do? They put redlining to make sure that, no, man, we don't want you in our communities, but somehow you're making it in. So now we have to create laws that make it difficult for you to get a housing loan, that make it difficult for you, to pass a credit score. We'll just put this credit score so high, but then in between, we make it difficult for you to get and maintain a high credit score, because we've created all these other problems that you meet daily that make it hard for you to function. It was all done with purpose. And I think the more we become aware of that, and that's why I love the calendar, because we could be having this entire conversation, Khetla, knowing all about this misalignment and everything, but having nothing to fix it. And that became my problem with debate.
That's true.
That's why I don't do debates anymore. I had gotten to a point when I came across GK where I said, I'm so sick of, we know the problems. We've articulated them. We see them.
That's true.
But where's the solution? And so the calendar for me and that alignment became the solution to almost everything, from our mental instabilities, from hormonal issues to insomnia, listen, to manifestation, to workflow, work-life balance. All that was literally made. I can't say it was eradicated because we're still functioning in the system, but I can tell you that I found a way to make my life more pleasant because of this calendar, and to have a better flow because of this calendar. So Mkhulu,
certainly.
If you give us parting words, and then we're gonna round this up. As you know, I'm taking. I have 2 people I'm taking to college, guys. So we are busy with that. So.
Yes. What I wanted to say, guys, Guti, we are truly misaligned and locked in that misalignment as African people. That is demonstrated by our lack of ability to feed ourselves. We live in our community. As an example, Soweto is one of the biggest, concentration camp in South Africa. It commands so much buying power. But we fail to even think about the necessity of setting up our own bakery. Is it really that difficult for us to feed ourselves? We depend on the very same people that we complain about, that they are colonizers and whatever. But the unfortunate thing, that colonizer is feeding you. And this is part of this destruction of misalignment. We are no longer normal as African people. Things that we should be doing naturally. Indian people arrive here. They stay in their communities. They make sure that they industrialize their own communities so that they don't go outside for their needs, right? All their needs are taken care of within their community. We witness that on a daily basis. The Jewish people do that. The Chinese people, the Greek, everybody is doing that except us. We don't do that because consciously and mentally, we're still locked in that colonial era and that misalignment, which is why, we've made this initiative, like you said. We've diagnosed our problem. Solutions now. We need solutions. The reason why we want everybody to readopt this calendar, because that will give us at least a foundation, for Black unity. Once we can achieve Black unity, it's then easy for us to move into the economic side. Because we then think now as normal people, okay, now spiritually and mentally we have been liberated. How then do we feed ourselves? We don't need the colonizers to tell us all that. These people who are from these concentration camps, we call townships, they go, and they are no longer here. The billionaires that are supposed to be, people that are showing the way in the community are no longer there. Right? These Muslim people and Jewish people, they make sure they develop their own places. But we don't develop our own. We go to them.
Because
you leave, your corner shop and the spaza in the township to a point that all Black people who own these corner shops and spazas, they've all closed because of a lack of support from us. We think that another nation is better to receive our money. than the money circulating amongst ourselves. That is a sick mentality, of guys. These are the results of all this misalignment. If you are misaligned, you can never be a critical thinker. So that you see the need to feed ourselves and clothe ourselves. There's no reason why we shouldn't be doing this thing, which is why this calendar, it puts us back into that alignment, not in terms of consciousness, but spiritually. So that this calendar becomes the launching pad for everything that we want to do. We know everything is guided by time. We will know when to launch. You can't launch, in March. You know very well that thing is not going to be successful because it's going against the natural flow of energy. We launch in September because that is the time of renewal. That is the time of the beginning. New ideas come, naturally. So if you are spiritually aligned and open, you will receive new ideas in September. So this is the period when to launch. So if we are all guided by this calendar is not just something that you read and just live. You live the calendar. That's it. Because firstly, it makes you understand the core of your being. Based on when you were born, you are then able to be conscious in terms of aligning. Which season are we in? What is the character of this season? What does this season demand of me? So that I'm perpetually aligned to this season. So this is the foundation of the future and nothing else. And our ancestors knew this. They were living this calendar. They were guided, and nature always confirmed. Nature always confirmed September is the month of renewal. Based on what is prevalent, everything starts greening. How can you then go against that? Which is why we are saying the ancestral knowledge is superior knowledge, because nothing is above nature. Our ancestors only taught us nature. They directed us to nature. Learn nature and align with nature. Then everything is possible. I wish and hope wherever we are as Black people, it's now time for us to realign with our energy and truly unite. Wherever you are, whatever positive is happening at home, please send positive vibes so that it wins. Like now here in South Africa, the only problem that we have in South Africa is this sellout. The Republic of South Africa would have died in May had these people, not been sellouts, because they decided to make a pact with the colonizer and ignore people who are supposed to change the reality of African people. So that's the only thing that all of us must request from our ancestors, to assist us to get rid of these sellouts, who are perpetually making sure that the colonizer is always on top. So it needs a collective, communication to the spirit, so that we are truly, going to destroy this and get a true liberation. Not all these, 6 months solutions, then you go back. We want a long-term solution. The land belongs to us, the economy belongs to us, and everything belongs to us, and it will come very soon when we have this collective, action and thinking as well.
And on that note, Kehla, that's so well said. And I know that we're people from all over the place, from the diaspora, but understand this, that when we talk of flow of energy and we talk of energy movement, Kulu will use South Africa because that's where he is located. But imagine that he was, imagine that he was in Senegal somewhere, right? It would be the same cry. It's not a cry for an individual place and space. It is a cry for all of us universally. So whatever starts getting undone, look, if you look on the continent right now, we're already seeing signs of a dismantling of republics, just based on what is happening in Burkina Faso, in Mali, and so on. So please don't make it think that, okay, so Mkhulu just wants us to support what's happening in South Africa. That's not it at all. What is happening is a universal shift.
It is.
And South Africa happens to be extremely important because it is the birthplace of it all. And
Yes.
the energy that was in Northern Kemet, where everything was refined, that same energy is now in the south of the continent, where now you have a representation of every single nationality you can think of that is black. You think of Black Africa in a microcosm, think South Africa, because everybody is there. People
No,
think,
that's
yeah, so people think that people moved there because economics, yes. That's us looking at it from a material perspective.
sure.
But when you
Sure.
look at it from a spiritual perspective and you understand that we have just finished a 2000 plus age and just entered another age, that energy is now in the south, where it was
No,
once
sure.
in the north. So people aggregating in South Africa in their numbers from all over the continent, north, south, east, and west, is just a sign that there is an energy that is drawing people spiritually to that space. And so if South Africa comes right, you understand that this becomes the center of refinement and excellence, of Black genius, of spirituality, of sacred architecture, of engineering, of medicine, because it's already, the people to do
No,
this
sure.
is already there. Thokoza Khethi.
No, sure. Sure, guys, you see, what you've said is very important because remember that Black people are experiencing the same conditions all over the world. You know, they're in the US, the Koreans, you know, Chinese are operating businesses all over there. Do
Yeah,
you
in Black
understand?
communities. Yes, in Black communities.
So it's a mentality that, you know, it's induced in us. So we need to get rid of that mentality, you know. And what I always say, guys, the liberation of this place we call South Africa, Southern Kemet, is going to require all Black people, consciously and physically. We need to liberate this country, you know, because what we were sold in 94 is not true liberation. It is demonstrated now, you know, with all these things that are happening. So most Africans are here already, meaning that Black unity or African unity is possible. It's a question of mobilizing everybody that is here so that we think the same and liberate this country. Once this country is liberated, we are then able to move with the same energy and do the same to the rest of the continent so that we liberate the whole continent. I always say, after, you know, the energy that you've explained, Africa will never be truly free until the root chakra of the continent is free,
And
which
it's
is
just
the
in South
Southern
Africa.
Kemet.
Thokoza.
Hey, so every Black person need to focus here. You know, what you were saying, and of course, the attention that South Africa receives is not because it has special people. We have sellouts like anybody else, but it's the energy, you know, that energy which is prevalent back home to the place of origins. So that's the energy we should all plug into so that we are able to liberate this country. Once this country is liberated, Black people as a collective are in control of their resources and their land. It's easy to drive that movement to the rest of the continent and the rest of the world, wherever Black people are.
Thokoza Khethi. No, on that note, family, we'd like to say Mkhulu, siyabonga Khethi.
Thokoza, 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 thokoza.
Bela, siyabonga. Thank you so much for gracing us with
Hayi,
your
kuthi ngiqhubeke. That I must go on.
No, it's always such a joy to have you here. I see the Royals are loving it. Thank you, Royals, for showing up. This is going to be reposted on YouTube, and I'll put some pictures so that you guys see what the Libombo bone looks like, what the what, and exactly to be able to locate yourself. We are symbolic thinkers, and I know that pictures are very important. So I will definitely edit and put pictures there. But Mkhulu, what a joy! Thank you so much for being with us again. And, please put some.
Because you have just opened up a platform so that we are not only communicating with South Africans, because this thing is for all Black people. We truly appreciate that.
All in service of Umoya. Guys, if you want to see Mkhulu again, can I see some hearts? If I don't see any hearts, he's not coming back. You'll just have to put up with me. You have only me. Come on, guys, show me some hearts. Let's say thank you to Mkhulu with a show of hearts. And once again, there go the hearts. They're coming. Yeah, boy. Tap your screen. Thank you so much. Thank you. Wow, there go the hearts. Mkhulu, do you see them? It's a hit. So thank you, family. And once again, those of you who are in the diaspora, get your calendar. I've given you the drill. I'm not going to repeat myself. But please don't forget to send me pictures. We love the pictures because then they become part of our campaign and we get to brag about how we are getting aligned. So, and I see somebody is gifting us huge. Ndabi saying, "Siyabonga, makwande kuwe." Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. Kehla, till next time.
Takozeni.